Another great show on tap for today's San Francisco 49ers report, but first, hope all of you are having a fantastic weekend. And before we take your questions from some of the most loyal subscribers on these YouTube streets, I want to thank you for subscribing to the show because we officially on Thursday surpassed 100,000 subscribers. Now YouTube's going to send us that silver plaque. If you're looking for Niners analysis, news, rumors every single day that's informative, insightful, and entertaining, join the faithful family that spans worldwide here at Chat Sports and lock us in right now. Let's start off with Matt Keller, $5 Super Chat. Can't wait for the game. I think my biggest concern with Jacksonville is how fast Trevor Lawrence can get the ball out. Also, will Samuel Womack be playing in this game? Not sure about Samuel Womack. Just because a player's practice window opens doesn't mean that they're ready to play that week. Sometimes what it comes down to is let's get them on the practice field, let's see how they look, see how they feel, then we'll evaluate from there. Teams have 3 weeks upon opening up that practice window to activate those players to the active roster. So that's kind of the timeline that we're looking at for Womack. Sometimes players do play that week. Other times it takes them a little while. As for Trevor Lawrence, very good quarterback. And I think by design during this 3-game losing streak for San Francisco, teams have really prioritized getting rid of the ball quickly because that neutralizes and silences the Niners' pass rush. And that's a big reason why San Francisco has their sack numbers down, where they're 18th in the NFL with only 18 sacks. Devin Thomas, $20 Super Chat, and a first-timer. Congrats on 100,000 subscribers. Also, what changes need to be made for San Francisco to get back on track? It feels like Brandon Aiyuk needs a touchdown. It's kind of been a while. Thank you for that, and thank you for subscribing, Devin. The changes that the Niners need to make. Defensively, get after the quarterback and come through with sacks. Quarterback pressures and quarterback hits are not enough. Have your defensive line be synchronized with your secondary. The secondary has to do a better job of holding up in coverage. Steve Wilks has to make adjustments and get this defense back to playing to the level that it played last year, but put players in a better position to succeed. And then on the offensive side of the football, I'd love to see Brandon Aiyuk involved a little bit more. Statistically, he's having a career year up to this point. And he's actually been one of the highest graded wide receivers in the game, according to Pro Football Focus. He's third in the NFL at north of 17 yards per catch. But in the red zone, I don't think he's utilized enough, I should say. And I think that Kyle Shanahan has become way too reliant on using Christian McCaffrey too much. It's great that he has that touchdown streak going. But I'm always an advocate for having a diverse, well-rounded, and versatile attack. Therefore, the defense doesn't know what's coming. And on some of those whip routes where Brandon Aiyuk fakes outside and goes inside, that's an easy one-on-one beater where it opens up Aiyuk and it's an easy throw for Brock Purdy to get the ball into the end zone. So those are some adjustments that come to mind. Playing Jordan Mason a little bit more, benching Isaiah Oliver, who in his last 4 games has not forced an incompletion. All of those adjustments among the many that we've talked about over the last 2 weeks as the Niners are coming out of the bye week here. Failed Poet, $100 Super Chat, $100 for 100K subs. Congrats. Bang, bang, Niner gang. Thank you, Failed Poet. You are now officially a member of the Goldmine Hall of Fame. Mr. Black Ice, 22. The defense must cover better with the quick passes. Again, going back to what Matt Keller mentioned a little bit earlier, it's been by design for Kirk Cousins and Joe Burrow to get rid of the ball quickly. They know, other teams, in their game planning and preparation leading up to these matchups against this Niners team, that part of the reason they've been one of the more stout defenses since Robert Saleh and then transitioning to D'Amico Ryans is because this Niners defensive line can wreak havoc. They can get after the quarterback. They can change the complexion of a football game and manhandle you. And because of that, they've countered in making adjustments with getting rid of the ball quickly to neutralize that pass rush. The SF Niners, $5 Super Chat. Congrats on 100K. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Make sure you subscribe to the SF Niners, a great YouTube channel. Always love what they're doing. my guy Brad has some of the best football analysis, especially when it comes down to offensive line play on YouTube. You will become a smarter fan if you tune into him. Today's show is sponsored by Prize Picks. $100 deposit match at prizepicks.com/CLNS and use the code CLNS. I've been on the app. Producer Trizzy is on the app. Shoot, you can even join Meek Mill, who's in on the Prize Picks game. And if you're into comedy, Andrew Schultz, a big Prize Picks guy as well. It's daily fantasy sports made easy. And if you want to tail me for some of my picks, I've been on a heater. I think that Trevor Lawrence does have success through the air against this Niners team. And I like the more than 248.5 passing yards. Dak Prescott, piggybacking off of what he did against Philadelphia last week, in which he was nearly surgical, going up against a bad Giants team that's down in the dumps. They realize their season is over. More than 243.5 passing yards. And the bye week, I think, was huge for Christian McCaffrey. More than 71.5 rushing yards. Aaron Jimenez is next up. Where do you see us in the end seeding-wise? There's no chance that we have the NFC playoff picture in here, do we? If we can check. Right now, San Francisco, if we don't, that's all good. In that number 3 spot, it's Philadelphia as the 1 seed, and we can show it to you right now. It's the Detroit Lions as the number 2 seed at 6-2. Then it's San Francisco in that 3 seed, followed by the Saints, Seahawks, Cowboys, and Minnesota Vikings. Can you imagine if the Niners have to play the Cowboys wild card weekend? The nerves that would take place and the intensity behind that game. I think it's really important for San Francisco to try to get that 2 seed so that they can play the more inferior opponent and try to avoid a matchup against a team like Dallas, who's looking for revenge after San Francisco has ended their season the last 2 years and then dump trucked them 42-10. So 2 or 3 seed, because I think Philadelphia is going to lock up that number 1 seed, Aaron. Wayne Woods, $5 super chat. Thank you, Brody. Edward Austin with this one. Would we see more stunts, pre-snap shifting, and position switching for the Niners defensive line to get the best matchup with so much good talent on the front 4? I think it's pretty telling what Richard Sherman said last week about what changes he would make if he was the Niners defensive coordinator, and we could pop up that quote because he actually doesn't like the stunts that Steve Wilks is implementing with this Niners defense. He'd rather see pin the ears back, 4-man front, get after the quarterback without those stunts. He said, we're going to go back to the fundamentals. We're going back to the things that we do well. We're not running man on first and second down like they have been doing. Not a big fan of it. I don't think they're sound. We're going to mix it up. Our defensive line is going to have to get hot like they've been doing and like they've done the last few years. For you to take them out of that, for you to sit there and run gains and stunts and do all these other things instead of just ears back, get after the quarterback like these guys have specialized in the last 3-4 years, it's weird, and I think Kyle Shanahan has had enough. I think this is the straw that broke the camel's back. I think there will be changes next week. And that was Richard Sherman for the Niners going into the bye week. They've made a change. Steve Wilks is now on the sideline calling plays. So that's going to be one change. And then personnel-wise, hopefully they bench Isaiah Oliver. How about we see a little bit more from Jair Brown out of the slot? At least see if he can play better than Oliver. Oliver can make plays against the run game. That's cool and all. But, bro, your job is to hold up and pass, and you haven't been able to do that. So, again, a lot of adjustments that I'm hoping to see from San Francisco in this game against the Jags. And Kyle Shanahan should have allowed Steve Wilks some time to implement what he wanted to implement because he's been in this league for a long time, and he was a sought-after defensive coordinator for a reason because he's one of the best in the NFL. This year, though, has to make those adjustments. Henry, the average Niner fan, with the addition of Debo and maybe Trent Williams, the pass and rushing should be better. But what if Purdy still gets pressured? Having Debo back is going to be huge for this team. Pre-snap, some of the disguises there that can set up mismatches and help identify zone versus man. But anytime Debo is on the field, he's a game breaker and a threat to take it to the crib anytime he gets his hands on the football. So you can keep things open for him. You can give him a little bubble route, and he can turn garbage into gold to the point where it looks as though he's not going to pick anything up, and then it goes for a 20-yard gain. not only is that moving the chains, that's a momentum changer. He runs through you. I think the Niners have missed that physicality as well as that swagger. And then Trent Williams, still the best left tackle in the game. So obviously that's important. But if Purdy still gets pressured, it's up to him to not put the ball in harm's way. The Niners, in this 3-game losing streak, 7 turnovers. Can't happen. Robert James, what's this crap I saw about possibly trading Brandon Aiyuk after the year? So we did discuss that on the show a little bit earlier this week. Dan Graziano, ESPN, said there's a possibility that the Niners do trade Brandon Aiyuk after this year because he's due for a contract extension. Spotrac is projecting that he's going to get about $20 million per year. You already have another $20 million wide receiver in Deebo Samuel. Can you afford both? And then can you afford both on top of the premium dollars that you're paying to premium players on this roster? So it was basically one of those articles where they're saying, yeah, this is possible that the Niners could trade Aiyuk. And from a football sense, it could make sense for San Francisco. They have their own first-round pick. If they get another for trading Brandon Aiyuk, they could address offensive tackle and cornerback in that first round. You go cheaper with those two players at positions of need, and then they're cost-controlled assets for the next few years there. Leland J is a first-time super chatter. Do improved rushing help the DBs? Go Niners. Do you mean an improved rushing defense? Does it help the DBs? Well, look, I mean, there's that old adage, right? Like, the ground game and running the football sets up the pass game, because then defenses, if you start to run it, they bite up. And that's when you run a little play action and you throw a ball over the top of their heads. You take the top off of the defense once they get drawn in. And other teams having success in running the football obviously does have an impact on the success that they have throwing the football. But there's this too. The Niners have had to play from behind in all 3 of these games in which they've had to come from behind and they've ended up losing, right? They've been grimy, ugly games for San Francisco. And once teams get ahead, they're keeping the offense off the field and in turn halting their momentum, because I think Kyle Shanahan's offense is a rhythm-based offense, and the Niners offense in turn has just been out of its groove. We'll be live for our Niners-Jags watch party, by the way. Join us. Our pregame show starting at 12 o'clock Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. So make sure you subscribe. And once again, thank you for 100,000 subscribers.